Every now and then, you come across a nugget of gold floating around the recesses of the Steam store. This here is Xenonauts and is, without a doubt, one of the greatest reboots of indie titles I've seen in a long, long time. Heavily based off the original XCOM UFO defense title, what Xenonauts brings back to the table the best, in my opinion, is the true gravity of the scenario the game places you in. There is a fleet bigger than the mind could imagine, poised in the upper atmosphere of the Cold War era Earth with goal unknown. Goal unknown, but not intention. Abductions and attacks across the globe are heating up, and it's your multi-government funded operation Xenonauts which will be the spear to repel it. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so in homage to XCOM, Xenonauts features little in the way of a direct tutorial. Information messages do appear, but most of the game has to be learned in almost trial-by-fire manner. If anyone is able to finish their first game without needing to restart, I'll be very impressed. The rewards for figuring out, though, is deeply satisfying. To begin with, you choose your base location. It may seem frivolous now, but many a time your initial placement plays a huge role in the mid to late game. You need to think about what you want to protect and what you can afford to potentially lose. So let's go ahead here, and I'm traveling to Taiwan soon, so let's go there. And bam, we have our base. Alright, so after this, it's a matter of researching quasi-science akin to a 4X title, which is done through this tab here. Building ever-advancing hardware. Blasting UFOs out of the sky with your interceptors, which is done on the strategic scene here. And shredding any survivors with your ground team, which occurs once you've actually got UFOs, or, you know, I won't go into that, but UFOs or other things on the ground. I will show you more of this game, but it's honestly better experienced by playing. Rather than do a walkthrough for this, I wanted to go over the design choices that the creators made, because honestly, that's astounding. I say astounding because it's been a long time since the game has truly transported me into the world so fast and so effectively. First things first though, the menu. I showed this earlier, but I feel I have to point out the degree of accuracy that the artist captured in the setting. Everything about this menu screams stereotypical Cold War, from the enormous computers dotting the background to the clothing and uniform choice, and especially the colour palette. If this was a Hollywood film, their set designers could do no better. The sound is solid, the ominous tone helping to set the scene with a nice easy loop that is comfortable to listen to if you so desired. The faces especially give the player a hint of what's to come. It's not often in a game that I'm reminded of the frailty of life, but as you play this you'll understand exactly why these three in the foreground seem to be holding so much on their shoulders. The menu decision is clever. Immediately it informs the player of their seniority to the officers in front of them and pulls your focus into the game world even faster. This involvement is well done, with the closest example I can think of another title that uses menus this effectively would be the Dead Space games. You select anything and it establishes that you are the commander, and these three especially are waiting on your orders. One thing I appreciated here was the ambiguity of nationality. Xenonauts is meant to be a global organization set during the Cold War, and the three foreground figures show this well. They could be placed amongst many of the prominent nations at the time and still appear the norm. When studied, the same can be said of the science team behind them. This here shows the game about 3/4 of the way through. You have a number of bases by this point, and as you can see here, there's a number of things that are happening at the time. The game isn't actually paused, you can't actually pause it. If you see up here in the top left, it shows the clock and the date as it ticks on through. You can speed it up, slow it down, play it at your speed. Most of the time you will be speeding it up after you've made a decision, but as you go through it, there are times you'll have to slow it right back down to make sure that the Xenonauts are up to scratch. Base management is pretty straightforward. You have your rooms you can build on the side, the area that you can build them in, all the particular statistics and costs of your base. Very straightforward, you'll get the hang of it once you play. Similar deal with research and engineering, whether you build stuff in your research technology. One thing I really did like was the changing artwork in each section to represent your increase in technology and understanding. mentioned earlier the frailty of life that this game instills. This game is not forgiving. Even on normal difficulty, one mistake, no matter how high the level of your soldier, it can mean that they're just going to get absolutely annihilated. Like I said, this is a playthrough of about 3/4 of the way through the game. This is on normal difficulty, and this is the casualty list so far. A lot of that could have been me trying to rush through things. You can definitely play it very, very safe, but it'll take you a very, very, very long time. If you're just playing it to a normal level, expect to see a casualty list very similar to this. And what I find so fascinating about this as a concept is it forces this idea that this is a massive problem. These aliens are actually a threat, and you're not having your team of super soldiers being able to just come through and just macho take down everything. It just will not happen. Like, you have people in here who are amongst the highest levels you guys can get, and in one turn they can just be taken out, and there's very little you can do about it unless you're playing very, very safely. And even then, there's always the chance that the aliens will get the flank, or that your soldiers will miss, or any other number of things will happen. It really brings home the gravity of the situation and just further adds to the depth this game can provide. The ground combat is fairly straightforward for anyone who's ever touched an XCOM title. For those that haven't, don't worry, it's still intuitive, right? You select who you want to move, click where you want to move them, they go and move. Once there, change the direction they're looking, etc., change their stance, open their backpack, etc. Game runs on a very clever system called time units. So this little bar up here represents how much time that person has to act and react. So every action takes a certain amount of time. So basically you do that for your entire team. You move around, you try and clear the area of aliens. That's what happens in a normal mission. Some have different parameters than that, but that's usually it. What I was explaining before, however, is every movement you do in this game, you need to think about. One mistake can just literally mean half your team got wiped. These two empty spots I have here and here on this bar, representing all the soldiers, that was my initial drop. I landed ambush right at the beginning, and unfortunately they were taken out straight away. Like I said before, this is not a forgiving game. You really need to think about every single move and every single placement that you can do, or else you're going to get a casualty list as long as mine, or potentially even longer. On that mention of the aliens, I think I might point this out. The list of aliens in this game is long, right? There's a lot of different types. They all have their weaknesses, they all have their strengths, but in general, there's none of them which are easy to take down. In other games, you have the unit which is a bit of a throwaway. They're the ones that will easily be taken down unless you really make a mistake. Even in this, the first aliens that you interact with will still be a challenge. There's nothing that you can just get away with being like, oh, okay, it doesn't matter. It makes the game constantly challenging, even with higher end soldiers. Along with that, the lore in this game is superb, along with all the different types of aliens and their reasoning for why they are there, the technology that you find, the tech that you build, the decisions made by certain governments, if you win or lose certain places. I'm looking at you right now, Edinburgh. It all makes for a very inclusive world, and you really feel like the entire thing is coming together. A very special note has to go to this. The air combat in this game can be done in either two ways. You can either auto-resolve it, or you can play yourself. You'll always have a better chance of doing it yourself if you're able to get the hang of the air combat. Unlike ground combat, the air combat does take a bit more time to understand how to do properly and, more importantly, efficiently. But once you do, you are going to be having unbelievable fun with it. It looks like something out of the original Tron, but just what can be done in this it's just great. It's just great. So right here you have two of my interceptors, which is fighting a very large alien carrier ship. Honestly, at this tech level, there should be no problem taking it down. I won't do that just in case I absolutely fail that, but my point is that everything is still a challenge, even in this, right? The auto-resolve option for this is 100%, but it still is a threat. If you aren't fast enough in this, your jet will go down. And it's just like the ground combat. The level of severity or wrong decisions or wrong mistakes that you make in this game have a very big impact, and they may seem small piece by piece, but adding up, they can really make your playthrough harder and harder and harder. And it feels like an actual battle. It feels like an actual war that's going on between the extraterrestrials and the Xenonauts as a whole. Yeah, very inclusive. Now, just while we're here in the air combat as well, I will also mention the music. The music on the menu of the game was pretty good. The music in the rest of the game, it's pretty good. But the music in the air combat is, in my opinion, probably some of the best music in the entire game. The person who wrote this, they need to stand up and accept the applause, because it is one of the most catchy bits of, I'm going to call it sci-fi combat music I've heard in an indie game, probably ever. It is very well done. I hope everyone who plays it gets to enjoy it as much as I have. Yeah. So there you have it. That's my take on Xenonauts. A very great game. I strongly recommend anyone who's at least marginally interested in top-down strategy games to give it a go. Honestly, I don't think you'll be disappointed. The team is actually coming out with Xenonauts 2 very soon, so that's something to look out for as well. Give this one a go first, though. It's very good. Can't recommend it more. Anyway, this is Hibbity, and thanks for watching my video. See you next time.